Welcome to the program from Washington. Let me first ask you, what has this last 4 years been like? And now we see more and more of your family members who are out, like yourself, your father, your brother, and yourself, ratcheting up the public pressure on the Saudi government.
Well, we've been living a real life nightmare for the past 4 years. It's been terrible.
Tell me in what way, what has happened, what is the nightmare?
The lack of security and safety. Imagine yourself, your dad has been targeted with hit squads, your siblings, they're being imprisoned and accused of things they never done. My husband, your husband being imprisoned, kidnapped, and then tortured. I fear for my kids, I fear for waking every morning just to check everybody's fine and what's the new bad news.
Hisa Al-Muzaini, let me just ask you to describe how and when your husband was taken and how he ended up in jail and what's been happening to him for the last several years. What were the circumstances under which that happened?
We used to live in Dubai. At the airport, he was banned from traveling when we were visiting friends. That moment we had to separate. I took my kids to shelter them because I hesitated whether to stay with him or not. A month later, he was kidnapped. He was in enforced disappearance for a couple of months. Later on, when he came out of the Ritz-Carlton, we knew that he was imprisoned in several prisons. He was brutally tortured. I saw the marks on his body. He told me a lot of things you can't imagine.
You mentioned the Ritz-Carlton, and that famously was the place where a lot of the opponents basically were rounded up several years ago in terms of they were accused of incorrectly and unfairly accumulating massive wealth, and the Crown Prince wanted that wealth to be given back to the nation. Is that what you're talking about? Is that the Ritz-Carlton you're talking about, and is that why your husband was brought in?
Exactly, that's the Ritz-Carlton where my husband was, and he was forced under torture to sign off all his assets and wealth in order for his freedom. But that's not the main reason. We all know the main reason is targeting my dad, because he was taken again last August 2020, and he's under enforced disappearance. I don't know where he is. I don't know how he is. I don't know if he's been tortured again.
So let me. You know, you say that you're absolutely sure that's the reason he's been taken in. The Saudi government, as we read and as I'll reread now for you, say that Sarah and Omar, those are your siblings and we'll talk about them in a second, are charged and tried with money laundering and conspiracy to unlawfully escape the kingdom. And your husband, Salim, was made to sign a settlement to hand over his assets in an anti-corruption effort. You've sort of talked about that. But that's why they say, the kingdom, that your relatives have been rounded up because of alleged crimes they've committed.
That's not true. That's a lie. They're innocent. All of them are innocent. My husband, my sister and brother and my father. They just, it's a personal vendetta that MBS has against my father, and it's involving family members in it.
So can you explain to me why he would have this vendetta against your father? What is it about your father? We know he's a former intelligence official for the kingdom, but what is it about him that you feel has attracted this kind of attention from the kingdom?
Well, my dad spoke out and he said that he fears of what he knows, what my dad knows, that would affect him and be a way to the throne, like it would be a barrier for him.
For MBS?
Yes.
And why? I mean, what was your father's position? Just fill in a bit of those details for the audience. Who did your father, I mean, how did he fall afoul, and when did he fall afoul of the man who's now Crown Prince and de facto ruler of your nation?
My dad used to work with the previous Crown Prince. He was his personal advisor. He helped in anti-terrorism attacks, preventing those attacks and saving a lot of lives, Saudis, Americans, Europeans, all over the world. And when the palace coup happened back in 2017, and MBS rose to throne, his first order then was to prevent Sarah and Umar from taking their plane and traveling to the US, where they were supposed to continue their studies. So he started targeting family members since then in order to lure my dad back to Saudi.
So the two who you've mentioned are your siblings, right? Your sister and your brother, who are detained in Saudi Arabia, as you say. What kind of proof of life, evidence that they are alive, or where are they? What kind of information do you have about them?
We don't know a lot. They're prisoned in Riyadh. They call family members there once in a while. Sometimes we're lucky to hear them through the speaker, but other than that, we don't know any more details. What we know is that they are innocent and they should be out. This is not a way to get innocent people and family members, prison them, take their basic human rights away from them. They're innocent kids that should be studying now and living their young lives.